cops come in, guns drawn, people to the ground.
Yes.
Sees his product, sees all this manufacturer's product.
Oh, man.
And they said the reason why was they said it was counterfeit. And it was not. It was the product from the distributor, which they had no clue that they weren't supposed to be buying from. And so they claimed all of the product back and a $630,000 lawsuit for lost profits.
Lunch with Norm.
Hey everyone, it's Norm Farrar, aka the Beard Guy here, and welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the e-commerce and Amazon podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. Our guest today is an 8-figure seller on Amazon, and we're going to talk to him about how he built that in the wholesale marketplace. So today, we're also going to be talking about how our guest started making and jumping into that 8 figures on Amazon, how his Amazon account grew, how his Amazon did not grow, it got shut down, and how he recovered from it, and some of the mistakes he made while selling on Amazon. So welcome to the Lunch with Norm e-commerce podcast and e-commerce and FBA podcast. I just remembered something here. If I look like I'm looking up to Mount Everest, I was doing a course. I was recording a course last night, and I moved the camera, so I forgot to level it. Anyways, we'll get through this. Maybe I'll just be looking up a little bit further than normal. But today we are going to be talking about making 8 figures on Amazon from wholesale and how to do it. So our guest today is the CEO of OnlineSellingPartner.com, an 8-figure Amazon seller in Indiana. He partners with non-Amazon focused brands, buys their products, and cleans up their listing content and resellers to control a growth. How's that? I'm settling down. I'm not in the fetal position. Anyways, first-time guest is Isaiah Fritz, and we'll be getting to him in a second. I want to thank Jeff Schick Legal for sponsoring this episode of Lunch with Norm. You've probably heard on the podcast about Amazon suspensions. They're very real. It can happen at any time. And when it does happen, how do you get out of it? How does the little guy like you and me get out of these suspensions without paying an arm and a leg in legal fees? This is where Jeff Schick Legal is here to help. For a very low monthly retainer, for only $89, get access to Amazon attorney Jeff Schick. That's right. You can sit back, relax, enjoy that cup of coffee while listening to the Lunch with Norm podcast, knowing that you have an advocate and a partner in your business success. But wait, just mention Lunch with Norm and receive 50% off the first 2 months. Get the protection you need and visit jeffschick.com today. That's JEFFSCHICK.com. Now let's get back to the show. Welcome, Isaiah.
Hey, Norm.
How's it going, sir?
It's going great. I'm just glad to be on the podcast.
Well, how's the Midwest today?
Oh, it's actually pretty decent. So I'm in, very, very, very South Indiana, 7 miles north of Louisville, Kentucky. So it's really starting that spring season. We have a lot of flowering trees outside my office right now. It's really beautiful. It's good weather today. It's probably 60s, something like that. It's 50s, but it's awesome.
That's nice. We're just freezing our butts off. So thanks for sticking that knife in my back. Okay. So anyways, we're going to be talking about wholesale, and interesting topic. Love to hear what you have to say. One thing I am going to be talking about is top line versus bottom line. So be interested to hear that as well. But
watch out.
Exactly. Because so many people I hear, I'm a 9-figure seller, I'm an 8-figure seller. What's the bottom line? So that one, I'm just preparing you. Anyways.
Hey, I love talking about the numbers.
Let's talk about a bit of your story. So you're a wholesaler. Is that correct?
I guess that's how. Well, I started in retail arbitrage. Okay, so
Okay.
like that's the beginning of the story. Retail arbitrage, but it was actually yard sales. So yard sale arbitrage. I mean, I
Yard
guess,
sale.
yeah, like your local neighborhood that your neighbors are selling all their junk.
Yeah.
So like started selling. I think one of the first big FBA thing. Actually, the first FBA product I had was one of the neighbors was. This is back when I was like 15 when I started. It was a DirecTV installer, and he had all this leftover DirecTV remotes that were brand new, and I bought them all for $0.25, and I sold them all on FBA for like $20 a piece.
Oh,
And
nice.
so like that was like, wow, there's actually something here to this FBA thing. And so then hitting the local Walmarts, the local salvage stores, whatever. I mean, so that was kind of like the genesis of my Amazon journey. And then over time, I got into like liquidation, where I was buying liquidation pallets and stuff like that, and flipping them, making great margin, just making some really good buys. And so that was the beginning. And as you mentioned before on the blunder intro, that I I had a really bad experience with Amazon shutting down my account in 2018. I sold 14,000 items by August, and I had 3 customers complain for inauthentic for 3 different products. And Amazon took that as enough to shut down the entire account. They were holding $40,000 from me, and it was a terrible experience. And they said, "We are going to hold this money forever." And at that time, I had not known about your sponsor, Jeff, and I was not paying $89 a month or anything like that. And all the lawyers that called me were like, "Yeah, this is going to be at least $5,000 to get this back." And I'm like, "I don't have $5,000. All my money was at Amazon, and they're holding." Because what happened was they didn't just shut down the account, right? They started holding disbursements for weeks. They said, "Hey, we're not gonna pay you. We're not gonna pay you until you appeal." And then I would do the appeals. I think I did like 40 appeals, and so I they started holding the money until they had all my money, right?
Yeah.
So it was a pretty bad experience. From what I learned from that is Amazon wants you to have a paper trail. They want you to have invoices from the manufacturer distributor if you're going to be a reseller. And they even ask for invoices if you're a private label brand. Sometimes if you get into certain situations. So
Hold just a sec.
Yes.
So if they're asking for invoices, I'm just curious for the listeners.
Yes.
And you're doing arbitrage.
Yes.
Well, you're buying it from a big box store, let's say. You're
Yes.
not getting the invoices from the manufacturer.
Yes.
So is that acceptable?
It depends on the violation. For me, I was never acceptable much at all. A lot of the stuff I was buying was from liquidation, so it was definitely not acceptable.
Yeah.
Amazon sometimes will accept a Walmart receipt, and I've submitted a lot back in the day when I was starting, and maybe 1 out of 10 they would accept or something like that, or like a Toys R Us receipt or something. Like, oh, wait a second, Toys R Us is gone now. But actually, Canada, you guys still have Toys R Us, Norm?
I don't think so.
Okay, I heard it was like still a thing in Canada, but but anyway, so when they went out of business, I had a receipt. Like I had bought so much stuff that the receipt was like I don't know, like a baseball. It was huge. And but anyway, so Amazon for the most part was not accepting my invoices, my receipts, and so I was in a really bad spot. And I was shut down for 9 months. And so I said, "Hey, I'm going to go do real estate or something." And so I stopped my Amazon business at that point. And then
can I just say there's 2 things there that are very important.
Yes.
One of the things, like you were joking around, but completely serious,
Yes.
with Jeff, for example, sponsor or not, most people, I would probably guess, probably 90+%, would not retain a lawyer until it's too late.
Yes.
And this $89 charge, like for a lawyer to be on your side, I don't know about now, but thinking back on it, you would probably say, oh, that would have been a bargain.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially with the amount of volume I was doing. I do a service like Jeff
Yep.
currently. So I do pay for one right now. So I didn't know about Jeff, but there's another service out there that does similar. Yeah, so I'm a member of one of those services.
Well,
So
that's super. And the other thing that you were just talking about is having like infringement issues, right? Or,
correct.
they weren't real products. So this is something that happened to one of my clients back about 2 years ago. So anyways, this is no word of an exaggeration. He's selling this product. He's got it from a reseller. Okay.
Yeah.
So reseller, now he's wholesaling this product. He buys it from this reseller and he sells it on Amazon. No problems. Has done it for years. No problems. Anyways, all of a sudden, the reseller, it turns out, is not apply or not is not does not have in their reseller agreement that they can sell on Amazon. So the manufacturer goes after the reseller and shuts them down. What happens next is crazy. He's at his warehouse, big warehouse in LA. Cops come in, guns drawn, people to the ground.
Yes.
Sees his product, sees all of his manufacturer's product.
Oh, man.
And they said the reason why was they said it was counterfeit. And it was not. It was the product from the distributor, which they had no clue that they weren't supposed to be buying from. And so they claimed all of the product back and a $630,000 lawsuit for lost profits.
I would have to believe that the guy that was selling the products on Amazon had to have a little bit of warning before the cops came. I mean, like
this was an 100% did not know. Basic, wow. And I'm going to say no knock, but basically knocks down the door, forces people to the ground
that is
at gunpoint, and office staff, everybody seizes the product and then has to go to court. They settled outside of court. I don't know the amount, nor would I say the amount, but that was the original amount, $630,000. So I'm just saying that there are some crazy stories out there when it comes to reselling, and at the end of the day, make sure that you have permission. And just don't think you can sell on Amazon. And, a lot of products are gated too.
That's true. That's true. And I totally agree with that, Norm. If you don't have Amazon shutting you down, you're going to have the brands go after you and say like, hey, you're not supposed to be selling this or all that stuff. So, I experienced all of that. So, so I started trying to get into real estate, and I found out that I wasn't good at it. And the only thing I really knew how to do was sell online. I mean, my mom's been selling on eBay like as a part-time gig since 1999. So growing up, I kind of was around it. I enjoyed it. And so, during the time my account was shut down, I was doing, just doing eBay again. And then what happened is I was talking to a VP of a big company that I ran across at a trade show, because I started doing a little bit of freelancing, and one of my friends said, hey, you can, I'll pay you to go to this trade show for me. I was like, okay. So I went to this trade show. I was talking to this VP of sales of this big company, and he had grown the company from a $3 million company to a $30 million company. And I said, how did you do it? And he said, well, I would send free samples to these retailers and give them my prices, and then they would buy. And I said, well, that sounds easy. I'm like, how do you just send free samples to a retailer? Like, how do you find the right person? He's like, LinkedIn. And I'm like, LinkedIn. And so, and he's like, yeah, you can find all the right people on LinkedIn and you can just message them. And I said, really? So I went to my hotel room that night And I was thinking about this LinkedIn thing, and I was like, well, I'm going to reach out to as many VPs at Amazon or whatever at Amazon and tell them my story, because I need that $40,000 back and I need my account back. So I did that. Within 2 days, my account was back, and I got a call from corporate. I had hit Jeff Bezos' technical advisor at the time, which was like basically Jeff Bezos' assistant. And so his assistant called me and personally apologized from Amazon HQ. They gave me my entire account back, and I had tried to appeal. I'd done like 50 appeals. I even hired one of those companies. See, I didn't have any cash at that time, so I had a company that they said that they would charge me a small retainer, but if I got my account back, that they would charge me a bigger chunk. And so I had tried them out, but they didn't work. Their appeals didn't work. So it was a really a bad situation for sure. So I learned like I need invoices from the manufacturers and distributors. So that is when I started knocking on doors locally of manufacturers saying, hey, can I sell your stuff on Amazon? I had tried a little bit of private label, but I just wasn't, none of my private label did very well. Like, just had a lot of failures, at that time. I didn't know what I was doing. So that's how I got started into the real, like, going directly to manufacturers and knocking on their doors, telling them, hey, I know Amazon. I can do it for you. I've had my account shut down. And the first manufacturer that I actually was successful with was a local candle company that was selling on Shopify. And so I started selling on Amazon, and I grew them to $2 million in revenue, and they were doing, a couple million on their own site, but they weren't on Amazon. So that was when I was like, wow, there's actually a business here.
So when you go out and you're trying to find manufacturers or distributors, are you trying to become the exclusive dealer for them?
Correct. Yes. I mean, if you don't have buy box, you can't advertise. If you don't have buy box, you can't do a lot of the things that you need to do on Amazon to really grow their brand. So yes, usually we're exclusive. We have some relationships where we're like a authorized seller. But if we really want to do the full service, I mean, we do everything. Like, we buy the product, we warehouse it, we ship it, we run the advertising, we help them with their A+ content, storefronts. We just kind of like, basically one of our things is we want to treat that brand as if it's our own brand, right? And become a true partner. So that's essentially what we work on.
So one of the model is that you're looking for a manufacturer that's not on Amazon, that might be selling Shopify, WooCommerce, something like that, and they need a hand. They might find that online sales, it might be an old guy like me owning the company and not understanding tech or not understanding online sales and wants to do traditional retail. So you take them, you guide them, you have a separate contract with them.
Yeah.
How important is the contract?
Very important. So in the way I do it, yes. And so I say is non-Amazon focused brands. And so it doesn't necessarily mean they're not on Amazon. Like, some of these brands are on Amazon because they have random people buying it from distributors and just listing it with like one blurry photo and it looks terrible. Or they're, and these are like sometimes bigger brands that you've heard of, that have these problems. I mean, how many like big brands that you're like, wow, this is a big brand, but they got like one photo on Amazon and like 50 random people selling it, and there's no control and there's no focus, right, on Amazon. So those are like the clients that we really like, ones that are doing at least 5 million in revenue already outside of Amazon, or they're doing at least 500,000 on Amazon. It might not be them, but their brand is, right? So that's kind of how we focus on that.
Okay, very good. Now, so the growth is going out there, finding these wholesalers. You have to make sure that there's something in the agreement that you're allowed to sell online.
Yes.
And maybe specific like you can sell here, but you can't sell here, right?
Yeah. So like that's when we have that real brand partnership. Like we have that agreement, and I started off with just like a good handshake agreement, and then that kind of doesn't work in the long run. I've learned the importance of having stuff written down, signed, saying like, hey, we're exclusive partner for this period of time and all that. So yeah, it is very important that we have that agreement in place if we're going to do everything for them. Like it's really hard to do everything. Because you got to, do everything.
You're basically you're a brand management company at that point, and
Exactly.
you're doing the listing optimization,
Yeah.
you're doing the PPC, you're doing everything at that point because there's nobody that's on the buy box. You're basically the buy box, and if
Yeah.
people are on the buy box, I've had to do this with products where I had 20, I think it was 23 people on the buy box that were
Yes.
distributors of a product, and I had to get them off the buy box so I could I was the exclusive representative of the brand.
Correct.
It was tough.
It is tough. We have to, and it's hard because it's like I was a reseller, so I understand those people, but really, what the best thing for a brand is they got to have control of Amazon if they want to grow Amazon. Sometimes brands will say, okay, we're only going to allow these couple resellers or something. And, there's different like strategies that they have. But the normal wholesale model that you guys will all hear about on YouTube is like, hey, just sign up for random distributor X and get your price list, run it through some programs, and then find the best things that has a good deal on it, and then just sell it. Well, yeah, that could work. And I've done it and I do it. And it does work sometimes. But it's not, it's feast or famine. Yeah, that might work for 3 months, and then the brand comes in and changes prices on you, doesn't want you to sell or whatever it is. It is not a lasting business model where if you're actually building that relationship directly with the brand and you're providing value to the brand, like you don't want to be a leech. Like you can easily become a leech that you're just leeching onto their brand value and saying, oh, I'm just going to make some margin in the middle. You want to actually be giving something to these brands so that it's a cohesive relationship.
Now, one of the other things, I just realized I'm saying now a lot. So anyways, nows or so's, Kelsey, make sure they're edited out. so there we go. Anyways, when you're buying product wholesale, so people say, oh, I got to buy a lot of inventory for private label. And you hear on YouTube that wholesale is could be an option.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people feel that it could be very expensive as well because you're buying now. So let's say that you're a Kuma knife distributor. Okay, so now you've entered into an agreement. Don't touch them. But let's say that you represent this knife company, and they come back and they say, okay, well you're committed to one pallet. So all right, so now you have to buy a pallet of knives.
That's a lot of knives.
It is a lot of knives. So what would you do in a situation like that, especially when each one of these would be roughly around, probably wholesale, probably $50-$60 a knife?
So I guess I'm a little bit confused on your question. So your question is
cost.
Your question is if that's their minimum order, that's like their
yeah. So if to get into wholesale, just a sec, coffee time. Thank you. So to
yes,
perfect. There we go. So the cost of entry, the cost of getting into wholesale. So with private label, most of the people listening know it's going to cost you X, 500 units, 1,000 units. What is the cost of entry? How long is a piece of string? But to get into wholesale.
Yeah, it totally depends on the brand, but actually you'd be surprised if you work so it's a difference if you work directly with a manufacturer and work with a distributor, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things like a lot of distributors, their minimum orders are like $1,000, right? Or $500. So it's if you're just going pure wholesale, no relationship with the brand, nothing, just like, hey, I'm just going to go to the distributor and do it. And sometimes you can find brands that are used to selling to mom and pop stores. So their minimum, it's very common to see minimums of $500 or $1,000 or no minimums, but you have to pay shipping. So it's very, I would say it really depends. But like, especially if you have a retail store already, it gives you a lot of leverage to get lower minimum order quantities.
Okay. And they're not we're not talking about a drop shipping model here. You have to buy $500 of this mug to send it, or there might be like for soaps for me.
Yeah.
I can buy 72 different scents, 9 of each, and that will make up my $100 or $1,000 or whatever it is. And that's the same thing with this. Okay. Well, that's very interesting. Now we're at the bottom of the hour. I'm going to get more into my dog is down here with a knife.
Your dog?
My dog is down here with a knife. I don't know where he grabbed it from.
Wait a second. That's not good.
Oh no. It's a butter knife. So he's not so anyways, the one time he came down with a raw egg in his mouth. Like he just comes, he's a retriever. So he retrieves.
And all that Amazon stuff that you have,
Yeah, exactly.
The dog could be eating.
Exactly. So like I was saying, we've got a really great Wheel of Kelsey today. But first of all, we're going to come back. We're going to end up talking about getting into wholesale. What are some realistic goals? What are the margins? But before we get into that, let's talk about the Wheel of Kelsey. So if you're listening for the first time, we have a giveaway every podcast. It's called the Wheel of Kelsey. To enter, it's hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, tag 2 people, and you'll get a second entry. Now, I should mention, do a proper tag, the @ and then the person's name. So that'll get you in for 2 entries. And today we have kind of it's a double stacked one. It's an either or, but the one is worth over $700, and it's a very good. It's a really great giveaway. So I'm going to let you talk about that.
Awesome. Well, Norm, I appreciate it. And so my friend and he came to me and said like, hey, I just bought this Amazon event. It's called Midwest Ecom. And he said the owner was sick, and so he decided to sell. So my friend bought it, and he said, hey, I want to make this into a bigger, better event. And so he called it, now he's renamed it Ecom Summit. So ecomsummit.com, and it's going to be in Chicago first week of August. And so we're really excited about the event. And I asked my friend, I said, hey, for the Lunch with Norm podcast, can we give away a free ticket? And he said, absolutely. So I'm super thankful for Ecom Summit to helping me give away this gift. But like Norm said to me, we were talking before the show, what if you can't make it to the event? We can't make it to Chicago. That is, I understand that. So the double stack is anybody, I'll give a free 30 minutes to an hour of my time for you guys to talk to me about any subject you want. One-on-one, we'll do a Zoom call, and and that would be great.
All right, that's fantastic. So the summit, $700 value, and you don't do this. I actually backed you into a corner just like a minute before going on, just saying what happens if. Yeah. And anyways, I really appreciate you doing that. So hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, tag 2 people. I already see some coming in, and you'll get a second entry. Now, before we do anything else, let's have another quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll get right back into this. Launching products isn't like it used to be. To successfully launch your product, you need to hit that algorithm from all sides. Driving external sales, boosting social signals, and increasing product listing engagement are fundamental to success. Rebate is the first and only launch platform that delivers across this broad range. Get your product featured on Amazon.live through Rebate's influencer program. With this service, your product gets instant exposure to large audiences of shoppers and permanent placement on Amazon Influencer Storefront, which drives perpetual sales. Run a sweepstakes campaign on Rebate and connect with shoppers off Amazon. And lastly, Drive external sales with tried and true deals campaigns. Visit rebate.com today and get started with your 14-day free trial. All right. So before we get back into it, I see that Marsha's watching. And I just want to say, look what I got here, Marsha. Some of yours stay well copper. So I'm just about to do a shoppable video for you, both sides, both types. Anyways, if I'm just going to throw it out there that if you have not checked out Marsha's product, and we've talked about it, Marsha Reese has done over $1 billion in sales. She's the inventor of sidewalk chalk. She had the license for North America for Power Rangers. This lady knows her stuff. Her next biggest thing, and also invented the gel wrist arrest for computers. These are just a few things. I'm sure she's holding things back on me, but she's come up with this, and I have it on my phone, wherever my phone is. And this is, it's an antibacterial copper for your phone. And it's so cool. I talk about some of the products that I'm receiving. This is one of them. So I have one on my phone. I forget what the radius is, but it stops you from getting germs. And from what I understand, and I don't mean to just go on about this product, but it's so cool because your phone is dirtier than a toilet seat. Okay, you would never think that, but it is. And this helps kill all the bacteria and germs that are on your phone. So anyways, just a quick shout out because I got them sitting right here because that's the next project I have on my day today, Marsha. So congrats on that really great product. All right, so let's get back into it. Some of the things that you have to know to get into retail, or into wholesale. So you can approach these companies, you can have the exclusive, you can make sure that in the contract that you have the ability to sell on the marketplace. Is there any way to get things on consignment?
Yeah, I mean, I do that.
Do you?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, especially now where cash is king and the economy's going down a little bit. It's like that's a focus. Where hey, I might take that product on consignment, but I'm going to pay you a little bit more for the inventory. So you become the bank, right? The manufacturer, whatever. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I mean, we write the rules of business. I mean, a lot of people think like, oh, we have to follow rules. We write the rules. So yeah, I mean, whatever deal you can make it.
Okay, now let's talk about margin.
Ooh, I love.
Let's go there. So people say that they're an 8-figure seller, but
Yeah.
out of that 8-figure, let's take $1 million. What type of margin are you really making off of that?
Awesome. All right, love this question. So, it totally depends on what your overhead is and what your what your gross margin. So, I don't know how you guys calculate gross margin, Norm, but I'm going to get a little bit nitty gritty, a little bit Amazon talk here. So the way I look at for my FBA business, the way I look at gross margin is everything that comes to me from that Amazon disbursement. So Amazon takes out their fees, they take out FBA fees, they take out Amazon ads, all of that stuff is, taken out. What do I get from Amazon's reimbursement? What you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's on your, little Seller Central app. When you pull it up, it's like, hey, I'm getting, every 2 weeks, I'm going to get, a chunk of money. Right. And so that's what I look at as gross margin. So it totally depends on how good of a buy is, right? I mean, on really good, we're hitting like 30% gross margin, and on lower end, we're hitting like 10% gross margin. So it really varies. Depends on the industry, like something, and it depends on how much you're selling it for. It depends on so many things. Like I love how you always say, how long is a piece of string, right? And so there's so many different things to that. Kind of at the point we're at, where we're doing a lot of volume, so for 2020, for example, I made some really good deals and had a phenomenal 20% plus gross margin, right? I made really good money in 2020 on $5 million. Okay. My net margin, how I calculate that, that's employees, because I have probably a lot of employees at this point. Employees and rent, or we do rent a facility, forklifts, stuff like that. That's not like direct Amazon cost is how I calculate it. So our in 2020, like our net margin was really good. I mean, because I had like one employee, and I had a few employees. It wasn't that bad. So like our net was like like 18% or something. It was very, very good. Any questions on that, Norm, before I go on?
No, so you've got $1 million in top line, and you've got 10% net. So you
110.
sorry, you got 90 sorry, you've got $900,000 profit. Is that correct?
No. So the gross margin, let's say it was in 2020, which was a really good year, made a lot of good deals. Let's say it's 25%. So
okay,
Amazon's giving me that. So after, and that's also including cost of goods, right? So cost of goods, Amazon, everything. So we're getting 25%. So like, let's say Amazon, FBA fees, everything, that's 50% of the top. So let's say out of that $1 million, you're paying Amazon ads, all that stuff, 50%. You paid them $500,000. And then you had to buy the product. So in this example, 25% of my cost out of the $1 million, so $250,000 went to actually purchasing the product. And then the other $250,000 is my gross profit before I pay my employees, before I pay my taxes, before I pay.
Got it. Okay.
So in 2020, on $5 million, I made $1 million gross profit.
Okay, very good. And then on the net on that, what would it have been?
The net was 18%. So
180,000.
180,000 per million. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's not bad.
I made some really good buys in 2020.
Yeah.
It was also like some stuff was going off the shelf.
But this is very similar to Amazon. With private label. Private label sellers, they'll start off and they might have a home run.
Yeah.
And then the next buy or 2 or 8 might be not so good. Some might even be terrible failures. Is that the same thing when you're working with wholesale?
With wholesale, the model I have, because I'm working with established brands, it's a little bit more predictable, right? Because you already know this is a good product. You know the price points you're selling at and everything. The thing is, though, that you can't work on such high margins because like a lot of times the brands are like, that's a lot of money. Like if you're paying $250,000, you're getting if you're paying $250,000 for the product and then selling it to the end consumer for $1 million, right? In that scenario I said at the beginning, that's very close to impossible in most, if you're going to do volume for most brands. So because of that, your margins go lower. So if you're doing good, and you're able to keep around that 20% gross margin. So I don't. I mean, we could run the numbers. That could be anywhere where you're buying something for. I'm going to give you an example. For $5 is your cost of goods. You're selling it for $10. And Amazon fees are, let's say, 25%. It's 15% plus FBA and all that stuff. Then you're getting $2.50 out of that $10. That would be 20% margin, or 25% margin, and then you might have some other costs, advertising or whatever, to get it down to 20%, right? And that's like a good example, right? But as you guys all know, you got to use the FBA calculator. You'll be able to calculate all this stuff. But a lot of companies will sell you the product at 50% of retail, but maybe sometimes that retail price is here at 100. Let's say in that example, the retail price is $10. They're selling it to you at $5, but the price that they want you to sell on Amazon is $8. So every, like you said, how long is a piece of string? Every example is different, but what I try to target is that 20% gross margin number when I'm running that FBA calculator. So I have the FBA calculator, I'm putting in my cost of goods and all this stuff, and I'm saying, okay, at the end of the day, I want to hit that 20% number if with these brands I'm partnering. But sometimes I'll have a brand that comes to me and is like, hey, we do 5 million. We know that we can do $5 million in revenue on Amazon and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, if they do $5 million in revenue, and instead of at 20%, that I would be making $1 million gross profit, and they might say, we want you to get closer to 15%, and so then I might be only making $750,000, but the revenue's there. So it's like, okay, I'll make that deal at 15%. Now I still have to pay my employees and all that stuff out of that $750,000. But that's kind of how I do the math. And as we've gotten in bigger volumes and bigger things, that gross profit number has gotten closer. And also returns, you got to factor in returns.
Yeah.
So after all that stuff, that cost of goods, returns, all that stuff, my gross profit is closer to that 14-15% number. And then you have, so if I'm an 8-figure seller, right, and I'm doing wholesale, and after returns and everything, I'm hitting that 15%, and I'm doing $10 million in revenue, that means I'm having $1.5 million in gross profit. So then out of that 1.5 million, I have to pay my employees, my rent, and all that. So, so then that just goes into it. So, and it takes a lot of employees to do what I'm doing, because you have to have people that either employees or agencies. I mean, I know people that have my model that they hire agencies to do like the PPC and the listing content, all this stuff. Like I do a lot of it in-house. So I haven't, I also have like the warehouse in-house, and that's just the choice I made because my goal is to grow and scale this thing to 100 million plus, and I wanted to do it in-house. That's just the decision I made, but you can do it however you want to do it, but you got to look at the numbers. You got to make sure you're watching margin. Last year, I invested a ton in new employees to start training. A lot of my employees are local here. So our net margin numbers our gross margin numbers were the same, like I said, 14-15%. Our net margin numbers were a lot lower, closer to like 3-4-5%, because I took all that money and I put it into I got into a bigger building. I got in, more employees and stuff, because I wanted to be able to take that next level and go from, hey, instead of just a low 8-figure business, I want to be I want to get up to a 9-figure business, right?
Right.
So
right.
That's kind of on me, because I'm investing to try to get to the 9 figures.
Sorry, I had to cough. So if you want to get into the game, one of the things that I guess you need to look at right out of the gate is that it's not typically something like you can work out of your garage, because you are talking about, for the most part, bulk items that are coming in. And maybe for the first, and maybe if you have a 2-car or 3-car garage, you might be able to do this.
I have, my house is a 3-car garage with a dock.
Yeah.
Okay. I built my garage around wholesale. So I worked out of my garage for many years until I had to leave.
Well, that's awesome. But for the people that don't have a garage with a dock, you'll probably have to invest or look for a fulfillment center. And those are some extra costs that you're going to have to consider, because they're not going to do it for free. I'm kind of interested in some of the mistakes you made. So you're getting into wholesale. What were some of the big ones?
Oh my goodness. Not having invoices.
Yep. Okay.
That's good. I would say that, I always, when you're on a model, when I didn't have the relationships with the brands, when I was just, buying and selling whatever I could find, you make a lot of good buys, make a lot of bad buys. And I always said, hey, you got to win more than you lose. And so your good buys, as long as they can make up for your bad buys, that's important. So when I began, I several times put all my eggs in one basket, right? So that is something that you got to be really careful on financially, especially if you have a family, that you don't have all your eggs in one basket, but you also got to, at the other way, you also have to think, you don't want to lose your focus, right? Because it's so important to have focus in business, because that's the difference between a big company and a small company. Is like, big companies really dig down and focus on one area, and they become really good at it and become leaders in their space. But as an entrepreneur in your beginning, you're trying different things. So I remember when I had my first $6,000, this is when I was beginning, I was like, man, I'm going to go buy a full semi of returns from a local store called Meijer, right? And I don't think you guys have Meijer in Canada, but that's something we have. And it's kind of like a Walmart. And so I'm like, man, if I buy that, I can, the value of the goods, I was buying at 90% off. I was like, man, I $6,000 for 60. It was $6,000 my cost for $60,000 in retail cost. So I'm like, surely I can sell this for 30 grand, right? Well, the reality was that most of the stuff was broken. It was like a lot of work. And like some of the stuff I would try to sell on eBay, some of the stuff I would sell on Amazon. And it didn't work out. And I ended up losing $3,000 out of the whole thing. I only made $3,000. I spent $6,000. So that was something where I was like, okay, I'm not doing the return thing again, because it's just too much time, too much work. There was thousands of items I had to go through, and hey, does this vacuum cleaner work or not? You know what I'm saying? Then I had all this complaints. So I'm like, I'm going to buy new items. I can scale buying new items. So that was a mistake I made early on. I also, I also would say that what they always say, fail fast, right? And so when you're trying something and it's not working out, move on. Just cut your inventory and go. There's been a lot of times where I'm like, okay, well, this was a bad inventory purchase. Well, I'll just hold on to it because maybe something will happen and the price will go back up and the market will do better. It's like, yeah, that might happen depending on like, hey, if you're buying Christmas trees and it's not Christmas, you know what I'm saying? But like a lot of times it's better just to cut and run and go on to the next thing and free up your capital. So that's just another thing I would focus on. But I've made plenty of mistakes. Also not having contracts in place. You might be dealing with someone you think is awesome and it's your friend. And I just had this happen actually just recently, and I didn't have a contract in place, and I bought $80,000 in inventory, and they said, hey, what we're going to do, you buy the $80,000, we're going to give you $70,000 off on your next PO. Right. And this is, I'm dealing with a big professional company. Right. And I said, okay, that sounds great. And I have it in email and everything. Well, guess what? They still haven't given me that $70,000 on my next PO, and it's been months. And so it's like that sort of thing has happened so many times in my business life. And it's like, just make sure you have stuff in writing. I do have that in writing, but I don't really, I just didn't have it in the right writing. Right. It was just like, and the sales guy left, and it was a mess. So it's you got even if it's someone and it's your friend, like I've had stuff where 6 months down the road we're looking back at the contract and saying, what did that exactly say? I'm married, so one example I give to people is like, I know my wife really well, better than anyone. And she still goes back and says, you told me that you were going to take out the trash. And I said, no, I didn't say that. Well, yes, you did, because you said, and it was like, well, there was a miscommunication, right? So I have miscommunication all the time. If you can have miscommunication with your best friend, you can definitely have miscommunications with business. So make sure you have stuff written down, contracts, and all good and even clue.
So I tell you how that goes. The salesperson will say, or want to get the sale. So basically anything goes. Yeah. And then it's your accountant that will say, well, you've got to get this in writing. The salesperson usually says, is not very good with that sort of language. So it doesn't get done. And I've seen that happen a million times. Really great people, really great salespeople, but they don't want to talk about the bad stuff. And the bad stuff is getting things in writing. And I've seen so many deals just go right down the tube because of that. So just like getting into a partnership, you have to, the honeymoon lasts so long
Yes.
until there's going to be a situation come up where it might not be so nice, and you've got to figure it out. Always best to have it in writing. So I agree 100%. So if there was one thing, just one thing that you would tell the sellers today, what would that be? Good, bad, ugly?
The future is not PPC. So
Go on.
I am very PPC adverse.
Okay.
In my opinion, this is my opinion, and there's a lot of data and projects and things that I've been working on. And Amazon is becoming a bigger and more profit-hungry corporation. And so what is the easiest way for Amazon to make money is just charge, or one of the easiest ways for them to make money is to charge sellers more for PPC, because they already have the customers. You're already selling the product. Why not just charge you more for PPC, right? And get you more sponsored placements. You see Amazon's doing sponsored placements all over the pages. They're trying to get us as sellers to spend more money on PPC. And I think it's just going to get, I think it's going to get worse. It just seems like it's gotten worse every single year since I started. So yeah. I really think that you're gonna, if you have a brand, if you represent a brand and you're really trying to market, try to think of alternative ways to spend your money besides that PPC, and then also be really careful on your spend for PPC and be really smart about it. I've seen some studies where people that are already ranking organically 1 through 4, if they turn off their PPC, they actually don't lose that much in sales, but they're saving so much money, it's helping them on their bottom line. And I think that's very important things to think about. Is at a certain point you want to spend PPC, but at a certain point it just doesn't make sense. And Amazon's going to keep trying to make you drink the Kool-Aid, like, hey, let's spend more money on ads, because they want you to do that. And it doesn't matter how nice that Amazon ad manager is, he's getting bonused on you spending more money on ads. So, and also I hate all the agencies and everybody out there that is basing their pricing model based off a percentage of ad spend, because they just want you to spend money on ads. They're not focused on profitability. And the future is profitability, especially with interest rates high and everything. So stay profitable, people, and look to other ways: off-channel marketing, influencer marketing, affiliate marketing. That's where I spend most of my time lately in the marketing world, to figuring out how is some other creative ways to drive sales on Amazon without PPC. So.
Right. And we had a very controversial podcast, probably the most, when Neil Twa came on.
I haven't heard that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So he came on and he said, depending on the product, but many products that are taking off, they've completely cut their PPC. And It was like, what? And he goes, yeah, I can give you case studies. I can get you people. So one of the people that did this came on about a month later, and he said that he's still maintaining numbers. But like you said, with cutting off the PPC, he did other types of traffic coming in, which we'll get to. I see there's a question there. We'll get to in a second about that. So yeah, very controversial. If you want to hear interesting podcast, can check out the Neil where he needs PC. Anyway, let's get to the next thing, and then we'll get to the questions. You mentioned earlier on that you and your buddy have an event coming up called the ecomsummit.com, right?
Ecomsummit, yep.
Yeah. So if people are interested in that, they can just go to ecomsummit.com and they can buy a ticket if they don't win a ticket today. And also you have an app that kind of coincides with what we're talking about today.
Ooh,
you want to, is that something you wanted to talk about here?
Well, hey, this is like totally closed beta. This is like not, this is something that I've used in my business and I've made millions. And I'm like, I think it's really cool, and I want to share it with more of the sellers and more of the community. But it's very early stages, but it's called Ecom Trend Finder We're looking for beta testers, people that want to find trends on Amazon, and also just find more product opportunities looking at search terms, right? So we're using brand analytic data to come in and be able to graph the data over time to see how the search trends are doing.
Okay.
And it's really fun. I love finding trends, and you can see things that are blowing up, and you're like, wow, I didn't even know this was a thing, but it's like blowing up. And I've made a lot of money off of it because be able to find trends, the day that they take off, or maybe not the day, but like within weeks. So I'm looking for people that are kind of savvy Amazon sellers that are nerdy and that want to kind of beta test and try this out. So go over to this website. It looks like some Russian hacker probably created. It was called Ecom Trend Finder if you want to be part of the beta.
All right. Very good. Okay, Kels, why don't we get to some of the questions?
Okay, and I'm just going to be posting the link for that in the comment sections shortly, so you can take a look at that. All right, from Tony, what is the best way to approach brands in my niche? I have some luck with LinkedIn. I think Tony's talking about his bedding niche, if that helps. But what would you suggest a good way to reach out to brands are?
I'm assuming he's talking about trying to get a wholesale account. So would you think that, Norm?
Yeah, Tony, can you be a bit more specific about that? So you're talking about reaching out to retail for your account, reaching out to distributors to take your account? Just be more specific. Let's go on to the next question while Tony's typing.
Okay, this one's from Ginger. Where are you focusing your marketing dollars outside of PPC?
Great question.
Influencer marketing and affiliate marketing. And you know what is so cool about affiliate marketing, guys? You pay a commission. So it's not based off of pay per click. You pay a commission when you actually get a sale. And Amazon is giving the brand referral bonus, which is 10% back. And there's some great softwares out there that are putting those things together. If you want to contact me, I'd love to talk to you more about affiliate marketing and what I've learned so far.
Yeah, and also we had the founder of Wholesale on.
Wholesale.
There we go.
Hey, those guys, can they help Amazon? I mean, they say, hey, we don't like to drive to Amazon. We like to drive to your D2C site.
You know what? This comes down to finding retailers. Okay, so finding brands. I think that's a great idea. And also it can help with driving to a Shopify site.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure about Amazon, but we do have, I think we've got a discount for anybody who wants to sign up with Wholesale.
Yeah, I think so I've talked to them before too, and they focus mainly on driving to your D2C site, not really to Amazon. And I'm like, hey guys, why don't you hook up with this brand referral bonus? So there's a couple guys out there that are doing it. I'm trying to think of all the names, but Archer Affiliates is a brand new one. Reversion is starting something. Is that the third one I'm thinking of? Levanta, they just launched last week. So it's a brand new space, but it's going to be big, and that everybody's going to be talking about it next year.
And so these are just so people, in case you don't know about affiliates, why don't we explain what those, okay. So basically you'll sign up for these sites, one of those three sites. And Kelsey, if you can put those in there, that would be great. You're going to sign up.
Man, these guys should be paying me affiliate commission.
Exactly. People are going to be able to find your site. And if it looks like, a good match, you're going to end up paying them an affiliate commission for driving traffic over to your Amazon site. It's a pretty sweet deal. It's a win-win-win. It
really is. I'm super excited about affiliate marketing, and I'm going to be investing a lot of money and time into it.
Yeah, I'm just starting to look a lot more into it as well.
Yeah, and influencer marketing too. Like I have some really good friends that are focused on, the hardest part about influencer marketing is how do you track it, right? And so I have some friends that are doing some really cool stuff with TikTok where they're boosting the posts of the influencers and actually tracking it like on a PPC model where you're actually seeing a cost per click, and it's working really well. So that's another thing that I've been focusing on.
All right. Very good. Yeah. Social media, like again, there's lots of different social media avenues you can take to drive traffic. Influencers are a great way. And don't forget, there's still, and again, going back to the referral program, Google is working quite well, quite nicely right now with Amazon products. So check that out.
Depends on your product.
Depends on your product. Yeah.
Like low price products, sometimes it's kind of hard.
$50 price point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a few for you. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit. Oh, the other thing too, and again, going back to one of our sponsors, Rebate, they've got sponsored surveys. Now, this is not a giveaway. So what you're doing is you're getting real information back about your products. And they also have an influencer database as well, but you're getting real information back that tells you good, bad, ugly about your product, and you provide a product to them for them to purchase. But what happens is you get sales velocity that way. So during a launch, it's still good. It works similar to search, find, buy, although it's not search, find, buy at all. You're getting sales velocity. That's it.
That's pretty cool. You also, do you recommend for SEO doing the questions and answers section on Amazon?
100%. If you're not doing questions and answers, you're missing out. And you like, it's like, I own a press release company. It's like you spin it any way you want. It's you're the ones that are writing the press release. So same thing with questions and answers. You ask the questions, you even can create the answers and say, answer it. And then as an answer, so Dima Kubrick was on Monday, and just video, like you do a video follow-up on that as well. And you've got the keyword, so make sure it's keyword rich. So you have a keyword phrase in there, and the answer has a keyword phrase in it. And then you follow it up also with a video that you post. It's awesome as a seller. So you can send all the questions out to whoever. You can ask people to ask questions, but here are the questions, and then you answer it with the way you want as the seller.
That is cool.
All right, Kels, is it the last question, or do we have?
All right. So Tony followed up. He said that if he wants to start an agency in this bedding niche, he's got one client already, but how would he be able to find more with LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, just whatever. I would use, if you already have a target list, like if you already know what brands you want to reach out to with your agency, obviously LinkedIn, you just DM them or whatever. Another way that I do is I go to their website, and for me, I'm in a little more of the wholesale type. So I'll actually go and say, hey, how can I buy your product? Like, reach out. How do I become a dealer? How do I become a authorized distributor or whatever? That's and it gets you in front of the salespeople, right? So maybe if you're an agency, you're not really going to buy product, but it gets you in front of the salespeople, and then maybe from there, if you're not having any luck from LinkedIn, but also good old outbound calling still works, and even
trade shows,
yeah, trade
associations. So yeah, if you go into associations, just on Google, and then you scrape them, easy enough to be done.
Yeah, you're right. I've done all that.
Okay.
All the black hat stuff.
I have never done anything black hat, Norm. Never.
Yeah, as you've crossed your fingers. Okay. Not that we have. We're a white hat company.
Yeah, we're extremely white hat.
All right. Our last question from Tony. He's asking, what softwares do you use? Do you have anything that you'd recommend?
Oh my, it depends on what you want to use it for. Softwares, I hate softwares, but I love softwares at the same time. In my industry, I really like Smart Scout. I like Scott. I like using, I got in early. So like I have a lower bill than most of you. Use the good old Helium 10 and for keywords and stuff like that. I use SKU Vault for managing my warehouse and POs and stuff. Might not be the best choice, but it's pretty good. There's all kinds of softwares out there. Norm, do you want to ask me like a specific software?
Yeah, anything specific for wholesale?
Yeah, so Smart Scout's good for the wholesale world because you're able to filter who you want and find those people and find out what they're selling on Amazon. And what's really cool is that a lot of these people, these brands, don't really know what's going on in Amazon. They kind of do, but they don't know the numbers behind it. So if you go to them so Smart Scout, what it does is it shows you, man, Smart Scout should be paying me for this. But so if you go to Smart Scout and you have you say, hey, I want a brand that on average selling price is $100, and on average there's like 10 people selling it. So if there's 10 people selling it, I can be the 11th, and they're selling $1 million a month. So it's you can put in all your filters, you find the brands that you want to go after, and then you could go to those brands and say, hey, do you realize what's going on Amazon? Do you realize that only half of your stuff is in stock, and maybe I could stock the rest of it, and there's terrible photos, and you could show them how much revenue they're doing and all that stuff. And like I've literally sat there with Smart Scout with brands showing them this data, and they're just like jaw open, like, oh my goodness, we had no idea what was happening on Amazon. We had no idea that most of our revenue was coming through this random seller that we have no idea who he is. And so that's a really good tool for wholesale. Tactical arbitrage is really good if you're just running lists. And then there's another one we use. It's called Analyzer Tools. That one's really good for just running lists of UPCs and just finding profitability if you want to go that route. For wholesale, you got to watch your margins and make sure you have the relationships. But the best tool that you have for wholesale is your relationship. And that's not a software tool, but that is something that you have to build on your own. So build that relationship.
Can you do that by going to trade shows? Is that a starting point?
I absolutely. I spent a lot of time at trade shows. So like, let's say in your bedding niche, I don't know if it was like dog beds or whatever, but like, Global Pet down in Florida, that might've just happened, or it's right in this time, great one. You got was a zoo. What's that one out?
Pet Zoo.
Pet Zoo. Yeah, that's good for the pet. There, those are the type of trade shows and the way to find trade shows, here's a tip, is find a brand that you care about or a competitor and ask them, what trade shows are you going to? Or if you're also trying to find distributors for that brand, you reach out to the brand and say, what distributors do you work with, right? And those are ways that you can find what trade shows to go to.
All right, very good. Okay, so I think that wraps it up. Here's the last call. Anybody who's interested in a free $700 ticket to the Ecom Summit, or
Norm, you got to come.
I would love to come.
Hey, it's not too far from you.
What's that?
It's not too far from you.
No, it's Chicago. So it's not far. That's a hop, skip, and a jump. But if you can't make it to Chicago for the summit, then what we're doing is, or not I'm doing, but Isaiah is doing, is going to be giving a 30-minute to 60-minute consult. So hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, tag 2 people, and you'll get a second entry. We'll come back to the Wheel of Kelsey. Just one more word from our sponsor. I want to give a quick shout out to an incredible group of sponsors to help keep this podcast running. The Lunch with Norm podcast would not be possible without the support of the following sponsors: Post Purchase Pro, Clear Ads, Jeff Schick Law, Rebate.com, Honu Worldwide, Digital Blacksmiths, Netfluence, Extreme Power, and Startup Club. Now back to the show. All right, we're back. Okay. Isaiah, you've never heard the Wheel of Kelsey before.
Well, on previous podcasts.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Okay, so here we go, Kels.
All right, here we go.
It's time for the Wheel of Kelsey.
Alrighty.
Hey,
Thank you, everyone who entered today's Wheel of Kelsey. I'm going to just shuffle these up real quick.
Kelsey,
All
I
right.
love sunglasses for the intro. I don't know where you got them, but can I get some?
I wish I actually had them. I think that was my older brother photoshopping something on the internet. So I'm happy they look good. But all right, so here we'll spin this. For those first-time listeners, this is the Wheel of Kelsey. We do this every podcast. Please email me k@lunchwithnorm.com if you're the winner. And
Luke.
that winner is Luke.
Luke.
All
Coming to
right.
Chicago.
All right, congratulations, Luke. Just email me your information at k@lunchwithnorm.com, and I'll hook you up with Isaiah. And thanks, everyone, for entering.
Absolutely.
That's perfect. All right. So, Isaiah, just kick around after you get removed. We'll get right back to you. All right. So, thank you so much for coming on today. Want more great information? Don't forget to subscribe by clicking here. Also, if you want to check out our latest podcast, click over here.
Lunch with Norm.